Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining Let's Talk Jen. I am Jen Robertson, and I'm so excited about this evening's episode. I have a beautiful woman here with me, and I'm so excited for you guys to hear her story. Miss Justice, hello and good evening, ma'am.
Hello.
How are you this evening?
Good. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much. Listen, guys, this show here is just a platform for people to get on and talk about their stories, their testimonies, what they've gone through, what obstacles they've overcome, and just to kind of give you an insight of their life and to let you know that you are not alone in the things that you go through and that there's people out there going through some of the similar things that you're going through and they're still thriving. They are still pushing through, and God is still making a way for them. All right, darling. So let's get into. Excited to hear your story. Listen, I want you to tell the people who you are and where you're from.
So my name is Justice Jones. I'm originally from Kansas City, Missouri, lived here basically my entire life. Um, I'm 23 years old, the oldest of six little children. Um, and I work at an interior design company, just kind of helping with like our showroom and things like that. Um, I originally graduated from Emporia with a degree in elementary education. I
Nice.
taught for 1 year in first grade, and then I left because public education system's a little messy right now.
That's a
Uh,
whole nother story in itself.
yeah. um, so yeah, and I just kind of spend my days just like really big on like self-reflection, kind of growing wherever I need to grow, trying to get better about that. And then I am engaged. I've been engaged for 6, 7 months now.
Oh,
Um,
congratulations.
thank you. So just kind of getting into the wedding scene, kind of seeing what that's all about, and things like that.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on the engagement. Listen,
Thank
marriage
you.
is a beautiful thing. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care about what's going on in everybody else's life. These celebrities are divorcing left and right. But listen, marriage is a beautiful thing, and I'm so
Yes.
excited for you. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's get down to the nitty gritty. All right. So, tell us a little bit about your childhood, like how you grew up, what your relationship was with your mom.
So my childhood, I was born to two teenage parents. My mom was going on 16. My dad had just turned 16. My parents were together for like almost like a year to 2 years after I was born, and then they split, which like at the time I was like one or two, so not really like a significant memory.
Mhm.
Um, I lived with my mom mainly, and then I would go weekends with my dad every other. And me and my mom were pretty close at a young age, like kind of was like my go-to for everything. It
Right.
was always just me and her for a while until my sister came along when I was about 6 or 7. So we were always like super close, and I was close with my dad and my stepmom as well. But it was just a little different since I wasn't with them like all the time.
Mhm.
Um, my mom and I's relationship started to like shift a little bit when I was around 8 or 9-ish. She had gone on a trip and met someone who came back with her. And I thought always was good. In my head, I'm like, oh, she's finally gonna have someone to be with. And I kind of would quote unquote have that like perfect like family kind of structure. Like I had
Right.
my dad who has his wife, my mom who would have someone, like it would be kind of complete in my head, or what I
Yeah.
saw as complete at that time.
Extended family. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
so all was good. Everything seemed fine. He was a great guy, seemed to make my mom happy. I was happy that she was happy and that she had found someone to make her happy. And then he proposed on like Christmas Eve, like maybe a year or so after them being together. And I remember being super excited, like, oh, we're getting closer to like the dream. Like everything's gonna
Yes.
have like this normalcy in my head. Everything's gonna be great. And then after that, I think I was about like 9 or 10 at this time, was when like it kind of started to go downhill. Um,
Mm.
we started to notice, or at least I noticed that like he did like from time to time, like kind of drink in excess. And when he was drinking, like that normally was like a very short temperament. Um, and then like on top of whatever other struggles we were having, him and my mom would fight a lot, and there'd be a lot of like yelling and verbal back and forth. And on a couple of occasions, I know that he hit her physically, and there would just be like a lot of that. And so that lasted, I probably was in there for about another like year or two with that before I got out of the situation. And that's kind of when a relationship started to take a shift. I no longer, like after a while, like trusted my mom because we would leave after he got upset. But then like I always knew after a while that we were going to come right back. So there was like that
Right.
lack of trust with her. It was very confusing. I was angry with her. I was angry with him. I was angry with myself. It kind of put me into a bigger role because at the time I had my sister and my brother. So it kind of put me into that
Oh,
like mom protective mode
protective
of like,
mom.
I need to
Yes.
make sure that they're okay and I need to protect my mom.
Yes.
But I also know like I'm young. I really don't know what I can do to kind of help her.
Yes.
Um, and then like once I moved out, like she had moved further away, and it was still like I didn't talk to her for a while. Like I think there was like a good 1 to 2 years that we were really on and off talking. And I think I would only call because like my dad or my her parents would say like you need to call your mom, like stuff like that. Like it was very much forced, but I like did not want to talk to her. And I
Wow.
think that lasted honestly probably until high school, maybe about my freshman year of college, before I could finally get to a point where it's like I would make the effort to talk. It was still a little iffy.
Mhm.
Um, but it was just like I kind of felt like we were in this part where the times where I was going through like puberty and growing up, like the times where I would need my
Need
mom,
her the
like
most. Yeah.
physically she wasn't there and I was too upset to reach out with her. And I had my stepmom, but my stepmom is white, so she can't always like share the same experiences, especially when it came to
Mm.
like me having to do my hair on my own and things like that.
Yes. Yes.
So it was kind of in that spot where it was like when I needed her, I didn't. So like it kind of just created that gap to the point where it was like, well, I don't like I need you, but I don't really need you anymore because I kind of learned to
Mhm.
grow by myself at that point.
Gotcha. So in those moments that, they were arguing and fighting, were you and your siblings there? Did you hear the majority of the arguments? And,
We
what was
were
going on in your
there.
mind at that time?
We were there. Sometimes it would be at nighttime, and most of the time, like my siblings would be asleep. I wake up normally pretty easy at that time, so normally I would hear and try to either get myself back to sleep, or I'd stay up just to make sure like they were staying asleep and they couldn't hear anything. Um,
Yeah.
and most of the time, like it would just kind of be like me corralling them. Like if it was during the day, being like, "All right, like go to your room, like let's just go. Like you don't need to see
Mhm.
this, anything like
Right.
that." And I think in my mind, I was upset obviously at him because he was hitting my mom, and like it was very upsetting. I was upset at my mom because it's like I don't understand why you keep staying with someone who hurts you
Yes.
so bad, and it just didn't make sense to me. But I think I was also really angry with myself because I was like, me and my mom had such a close bond that I was like, I'm supposed to be protecting you. I'm supposed to be helping you. But
Mhm.
like, it kind of became like when it would happen, I just be frozen because it'd be like, one, this is really happening. But two, it's like, how am I supposed to help you without getting myself hurt? And then now there's no one to protect my brother or sister.
Yes.
So I would get upset with myself. And I was upset with myself for a long time over it. I'm like, why could I not help her?
Okay. Now, how old were you at this moment?
Like basically like elementary, like upper elementary age,
Oh,
like
goodness.
transitioning into like that intermediate middle
That
school age. Like there
adolescence.
really was nothing I
Yes.
could do. And like I think about it now, like I know there'd be times from like, well, why didn't you like run and grab a phone and call someone or go to a neighbor's house or like I don't know, like maybe try to get to your mom and act like a berry. Like there were so many things.
Right.
Why didn't you do that? But it's one of those moments where it's like literally like I just like I was just frozen. Like I really just was like, what the heck is going on right now?
And I think in those moments when you're that age and you're young, you especially in our community, in the Black community, it's more that, what goes on in this house stays in that house. And I
Yeah.
really feel like that is such a toxic way to think, because if there's something like abuse going on, you have got to say something. Call another relative,
Yeah.
if you don't want to call the police, because of course you do. You don't want to get anybody in trouble, but at the same time, when they're hurting you and your family, you're that young, you think about that. It's kind of like, oh, well, there's so much that goes on in your mind that you take on as a child, as a 10-year-old or an 11-year-old or however. Um, and it is scary. It's
Yeah.
very scary, but we as a community, we have got to we've got to get out of that mindset of,
Hmm.
when it comes to abuse, whether it's verbal or physical, or if something's going on that is hurting you some type of way, we've got to say something.
Yeah.
Therapy is amazing. I
Yeah.
want to break that taboo right now. Therapy is amazing. And being able to open your mouth and talk about things, you just never know what will happen. And
Yeah.
I feel you on that. Now, I've never experienced any abuse within my home, but hearing my friends and seeing different things go down and hearing stories like yours, I don't even know what I would do in that
Hmm.
situation. We, would I jump into it and then risk, getting hurt or getting hit or even getting killed? Because if a man can hit a woman, I mean, there's nothing that will stop him from
Yeah.
hitting a child. There's, especially if he's in that rage. So I listen, kudos to you, ma'am. Kudos to you, because you did endure that. And I know mentally that was a trying time for you.
Yeah.
So can we talk about a little bit how mentally you have gotten to where you are right now with those experiences? Like, how do you look at your relationship? You said you were engaged. Can kind of tell us how that journey has been up until now?
So mentally it was very, I think leaving, like, it was very taxing. I think it definitely taught me ideals when I was younger that now that I look back, I'm like, are not what I wanted. But like it was definitely
Yeah.
teaching me, like, because my mom kept coming back and she almost like she couldn't leave. I was like thinking that, like, okay, like your value is like within a man and that's where your value is coming from. So a lot of that led me to like seeking attention from men, and trying to like, and
Yes.
especially because like I was developing earlier than the rest of my peers, like I would use that to my advantage and I would kind of just like allow toxic men into my life that I had no business doing, and then create toxic tendencies myself. And eventually when I got to the point of like kind of healing within myself, I got to more like a more safe space and more healthy space of what I wanted.
Mhm.
um and then with my fiance, when we first started dating, like he was aware of like what I've been through. We've been peeling it back. Um, and I would notice that like certain things that I would see my mom do, like I would start doing like the snapping back really quick or like really taking things to heart. Like I would notice I would do that. And luckily my fiance is great and he's super patient with me.
Mhm.
And he would let me know, but he would never do it in a way that was like malicious or like trying to hurt my feelings. But I would notice it and I was like, I don't like this. Like I know this is not what I want for myself,
Mhm.
but it's
Mhm.
so natural that like, and I've been doing it for so long that like I don't know how to break it. And I valued the relationship we had. And it was something that I knew like I had prayed for so long to have. So I was like, this is not something I want to give up. So that
Right.
made me actually finally seek out like going to therapy. Um and it was still like roughishly like COVID time, a little bit post. So like I was doing it online with my therapist, which was fine. Um, but that made me actually get into therapy and really work through those problems, because in a sense I
Yes.
had, but I know like in the back of my head it was still affecting me in like tinier situations.
Mhm.
And I knew it was something that like I felt like I had gone as far as I could on my own. So now
Yes.
I think it's time for me to do like that outside help.
Yes. Now with your therapy, because I feel like people are kind of oh, I have to be careful how I say this. People, they don't do things that they don't know anything about.
Hmm.
And you know, you've gone through therapy, and I can talk a little bit about going through therapy because there was a point in my life that I did have to go through therapy. Kind of shine a light on what the therapy did for you in your situation, like how it's not just about telling your business, but it is about telling your business so you can, you know, kind of get to the root of things.
So for me, one, my therapist was absolutely amazing. I love her. I still go and see her every so often. But for me, since I was in a point where I wasn't like completely like quote unquote broken, like I was still put together, like still tiny little pieces. Therapy for me just made me become more self-aware of how things were affecting me. So like a practice we would do is like after we were done talking about something, she would have me rate how I was feeling and where I was feeling that
Right.
feeling, which a lot for me, I was feeling a lot of like my angry feelings in my stomach, a lot of my sad feelings in my heart.
Mm,
So it made allowed me to become more self-aware of like where things were coming from and
right.
why I was doing it. So then she would teach me things like when you are feeling those feelings, like think of how it's affecting you, what's your first thought, what are you thinking? Um, and just allow yourself to kind of calm it down. And then like teaching those like responses too. So like instead of immediately having a response when I'm having a discussion with anyone or mainly my fiance, like I won't respond immediately. I will pause and really think about what they said before I make whatever response that I am giving. And that allows me not to be as quickly like to snap back at him or feel like I wasn't really hearing him. And I apply that like with every part of my life. Like I'm very slow responser. Just to process like what I'm feeling and making sure what I'm saying is not coming out wrong. Um, Even with telling my business, like my therapist was never pushy about it. She was always super slow. If there was something that she could tell, like I was really struggling with, she'd be like,
Yes.
we can take a break from that. We can take a break. We'll come back to it, or we'll move on to something else. So she was never really pushy about it.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I liked that she really did in the beginning was she would have me bring up people who are super important in my life, and we would talk about like the things I like about them and things I wish they would do better, um,
Yes.
and who was like my safe space to go back to. And it really helped because then she would help me kind of identify like, well, why do you feel those things about them, and what are some things you could say to kind of help them get better about that. And it
Yes.
was like super game changing. And I think it's improved a lot of my relationships with people and with myself.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, therapy, and we have to create this lifestyle that is going to be conducive for us. And if we're the problem, and a lot of times we don't want to face our issues because
Mm-hmm.
we know we're the problem. So with therapy, and even I can testify that, you know, when I went through my therapy, it was a lot of the same thing that you went through. Like, you know, you tell what's going on, but they don't force you, they don't push
Mm-hmm.
you, you know, they just tell you, okay, why are you here today, you know, how are you feeling, what's going on. And you really have to be honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's accountability. It really is. It's accountability and how you manage your emotions, how you deal with certain things that have happened in your life.
Yeah.
And to really look in the mirror and say, okay, I have anger issues, or I have mommy issues, or I have daddy issues, or I have, I'm really insecure, or I have this going on, or I have that going on. And then to be able to tackle that and do things differently so that you don't go down that road again. I think that's bold. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's very courageous. And I think that it kind of shines a light on how you value yourself.
Yeah.
Therapy is not a shaming. It's not something that people are going to make you feel bad about. No,
Mm-hmm.
it's that is the ultimate self care, I believe, is when you go to a therapist and you have someone that you can unload and it
Yeah.
not be biased.
Yes.
It's going to be good sound. Well, hopefully it's good
Yeah.
sound advice. Do your research and kind of find the therapist that's right for you. But that's the ultimate self-care to me, because you're unloading, you're getting all of that weight and all of that baggage off of you so that you can be able to handle all the happiness
Yeah.
and the love and the joy and the peace that is waiting on you to pick it up. So I love that. I absolutely love that. I endorse therapy. Listen, all the therapists that are out there, kudos to you. Listen, I applaud you, because you have to be someone very strong to take on other people's issues and problems and be able to give advice and it not affect you. So kudos to y'all. I have to say that.
Yes.
All right. So before we move on, listen, I want to take this time to recognize our sponsors. Thank you so much for supporting Let's Talk Jen. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I want the viewers to get to meet you, get to know you and your brand. So let's go ahead and take a little bit of a break. All right, guys, welcome back. Again, thank you to all of the sponsors who are making this show possible. I appreciate all of your support, and I pray that everything works out best for all of you. So thank you so much for that. All right, Miss Justice. So we are back. And I'm loving this story. I'm loving the transparency. I love the fact that we are breaking barriers right now, because people need to know that your self-worth is so important. And it starts with you. That's why it's called self-worth. It starts with you. Oh, hold on. We're running out of time. So I may have to start that back over.
Yeah. No.
I got the pop-up. So if it cuts off, just click on the link again and we'll jump back into it. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Actually, okay, yes. So we have 2 minutes. Okay. All right, guys, welcome back. Thank you so much to the sponsors for everything that you do in making Let's Talk Gym possible. So kudos to you. We appreciate all that you do, and I pray that all the success come to you and your business. All right, Miss Justice. So let's jump back into this. I love the fact that we are talking about some really taboo topics: therapy, being able to open up about what's going on in our homes, toxic relationships. So let's dig a little deeper into your story. Now, at this moment, you are at this part of the story, you are in high school, getting ready to get into college. So what was your mindset at this particular time in your life?
I think at this time I was definitely ready to get out. I was going to a place where like not even most of my high school peers were going to. So I was like ready to kind of start fresh, meet new people, maybe blossom at this point. At this point, I was in a toxic relationship. And I was like kind of still like super focused with that. I was happy to just kind of be off doing my own thing as well. So transitioning high school to college, and it very much was like kind of a culture shock. I'm very, not very, but I am shy. I normally like have to be in environments where it, people come to me, or like it's easier for me to go to people. And at this time, my toxic relationship had ended not too far in for me into college. But of course, me being who I was and thinking like this was my forever, like there was a lot of back and forth on that point until I think it finally stopped around my sophomore year of college. Um, and then at this point, I think was when I really started to transition into trying to heal what was broken. I was really trying to like find ways to kind of release my stress. So I started getting into the gym. Um, and trying not to isolate myself as much, which is a tendency I have to do. Like if my strong emotions are rising, try to put myself out there, but it was still like super hard. And at that same time, I
Right,
was also still trying to like kind of battle an eating disorder at that time. So it was still like kind of a way of like getting better, but also like dipping at times and stuff like that, which is still
right.
very prevalent right now. So
Gotcha. Okay. Well, listen, now you mentioned to me before as we were getting ready for the show that you battled with anorexia and
yes.
health issues. Let's speak on that a little bit because I hear a lot of us say that that particular thing is a white person's
Mm-hmm.
issue, and y'all, we need to stop saying that because it's really not. It actually affects our community more than we know. It's just that not a lot of people are talking about it. So kind of touch on, what you dealt with that particular thing, because anorexia is really, it's a it starts mentally, and
Mm-hmm.
then of course it affects your body and then your health. So kind of explain to us what you went through with that.
So mine started about I would say in eighth grade is about when mine was like starting.
Mhm.
Um, and I think like a lot of it came from like getting bullied and being like commented on my weight, which I
Mm.
was like binge eating just to kind of cover up whatever pain I was going through. Um, and so it kind of started with that. And I would hear my family make like little comments about weight and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, and so, sorry, my summer after seventh grade, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of being like fat. Like, I want to be like other girls. I want to be smaller. Like, I just don't want to look how I want to look. So I would actually stay with my grandparents majority of the summer. And I would literally, my routine be I wake up, I found like a little Zumba slash cardio class, and I would do it for 3 hours straight. Mind you, I hadn't eaten anything, drinking anything, nothing. So it's just straight working out three
Oh
hours.
my God.
I would go have one Pop Tart. And by one, I mean a single, not the two, like one Pop Tart, skip lunch. And then when it came to dinner, which my grandma or my grandpa would normally cook, I would have like the tiniest little portion that I could, and that'd be what I'd eat. I never got to a point of binge eating because like I knew obviously that'd make me gain, like, and I would do that pretty much a whole summer. And obviously with that, the weight did come off like super fast.
Oh, well,
Um,
yeah.
and I was like, oh, like I'm like smaller, but I'm not as small as I want to be. And it was never enough. Like I can never be as small. And so like once school started, like I would kind of get back into it. I was doing dance, so I didn't have to worry about the exercise component too much, but my eating was still very small. And like my mom especially would like ask me every so often, like, are you eating enough? Like, are you doing okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, it's nothing. And I was good at like hiding it. Like you could barely tell, like, because I would sometimes
Yeah.
still eat a school lunch. I would maybe just not eat like much when I got home, or I
Gotcha.
wouldn't eat in the morning. So it was very easy for me to hide it. And I think for a while, like, I think it went on like that really until my sophomore year of college. And then like when I was doing dance competitively in high school, like I remember like, okay, I had something to work me out. And I remember like it got to the point where like I was small enough that like the top portion of my stomach, like you could see like a little bit of my rib cage. And it got to the point where I was like, if I cannot see the bone there, I would freak out. I wouldn't eat at all until I could see it again. And like it got, and like mentally, it was always like I was never small enough, especially because like as being a Black woman, like genetically, like I'm gonna have thicker thighs. And I remember being like, my thighs aren't small enough. Like I can wrap two hands around my thighs, but that's not enough. I need to be able to only wrap one. Like my stomach is
Oh,
small enough. Like my triceps, like there's still fat there that's like flapping around. Like I can never be skinny enough. And I don't know what was like the big shift of it, but I think at one point in college, I was like, I think once I stopped like doing like things that kind of like affected my how I thought of myself, I was like, I'm tired of being skinny. And now the struggle came. I wanted to gain weight, but mentally I could not get myself to eat. Like I knew I needed to eat to do it, but like it was like the blockade had been there so long that like I would try to eat, but I would get full so quickly because that's all that my body was used to me eating.
Wow.
So it was so
Mhm.
hard to push past that mental block. Um, and eventually, like it took me a while to gain weight. I did get off birth control, so that kind of helped as well.
Yeah.
But it took me a while to like get to the point where I was. And even then, it would still like kind of like it would still tick me a little bit. Like I would see the weight, or I'd see my body and be like, I know I'm doing what I want, but I'm like, maybe this is a little too much. Like this may
Mhm.
be a lot for me.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, and it was just like probably one of like the hardest things I ever had to go through because it's such a hard mental blockade, and then like physically trying to deal with that, like it was definitely a lot.
Oh my goodness. Listen, I'm telling you, mental health is very, very important. And people don't realize that it goes hand in hand. Like your mental health and your physical health, they work together. And just like you said, you literally blocked off the thought process of I need to eat or I'm hungry. So let me eat this plate right here. And that's scary. Oh my goodness. Like I didn't even think that you could like literally get to a point where you're blocking off. Now, emotions, listen, I am the queen of blocking off emotions. I can do that. But being able to, tell your body, tell yourself, listen, we're not going to eat today. Do you know how much power you have in that?
Yeah.
And what you could do if you took that negative energy and you turned it into something positive. You start telling yourself, excuse me, I am beautiful, I am strong, I can do this, I'm not this or I'm not that or I am. And your words carry weight. They carry so much weight that whatever you speak, that's what's going to happen. So people don't really realize that what you speak, it holds a lot of weight and it changes everything in your life. So if you take that negative energy and you switch it into positive energy, that's when you're going to start to see your life change for you because you start doing those things and your body gets used to it. So I love the fact that you kind of you correlated that and then
Mhm.
you talked about how even with just the thought, a change in your thought process, and you started doing those things, you started to see the effects of that change. So, listen, I have I have not gone through anorexia, but I've seen and I've heard different people going through it, and it's a little it's detrimental.
Mhm.
So I applaud you for coming out of that thought process because some people don't and
Yeah.
they die. Like you could literally die from malnutrition because that's basically what it is. You're starving yourself to get to a desired weight,
Yeah.
and not necessarily a healthy weight and in a healthy way. Now, do you still you still go to the gym? Do you still work out? Like what is your health like now?
I still go to the gym. I'm not as like die hard in it as I used to. It's definitely like more of a healthy progress. Um, and then eating, like I'm doing better about it, and I will eat. I think sometimes I still do have that like blockade that will come and kind of feel like that's enough, and it will send that signal like to my stomach, and my stomach will kind of start to feel full. But
Yeah,
like once I realize it's kind of popping up, I'm kind of able to tell myself like we haven't touched much. Like I think we can go a little further, and I'll push myself um
yeah,
a little bit. Sometimes it's a little harder, and especially since I've gotten on birth control, it's affected my weight a little bit more. So that kind of created like kind of like a flashback to those times.
Yeah.
But luckily, like with me and then like with my fiance as well, like we've both been like helping me and kind of like making sure I don't go too far off the rails, and then I'm still doing what I need to do and nourishing my body. So
Yes, I love that. Listen, I'm so glad that you got out of that mindset. And there's so many beautiful women who deal with insecurities. They
mhm,
deal with self-hate. They deal with they deal with toxic relationships because they don't want to, they think they deserve it and they
mhm,
don't. And I just want to say to all of the women that are going through what they're going through right now with health issues and with self-worth. You are worth more than diamonds. And nobody, nobody can tell you that you're not. If you feel that within yourself, if you look at yourself in the mirror and you can tell yourself, I am beautiful, not the Hollywood beautiful, not the magazine beautiful, not what this world portrays as beautiful, but I'm beautiful because I'm me. There's nobody like me. There's nobody that looks like me. So I am the most beautiful thing in the world, and believe it and walk in that because you are. And I believe that God doesn't make trash. God does not create trash. He makes us, he created us beautifully. We are beautifully, wonderfully, and fearfully made. And I believe that to my core. And I battled with insecurities. I battled with trying to be good enough. I battled with living up to other people's standards and expectations. And it is a weight. It is such a weight, and we don't realize that other people's perception, other people's thoughts and opinions can literally kill us because we feel like we're not good enough. And it's a deadly spiral. We feel like we're not good enough. We feel like in your situation, I'm not thin enough, and I'm not this, or I'm not that. And then we go through these mental health issues, which triggers physical health issues, and then it's just a vicious cycle. So I applaud you for coming out of that. You are an absolutely beautiful soul.
thank you.
And again, I want to say congratulations on your engagement. Let's talk
Thank
a little
you.
bit of engagement.
Yes.
Listen, so with this transition, like, I know that this is an amazing time for you. Like, how are you preparing mentally to be someone's wife?
I think mentally, and this is like me and my fiance's, we have been living together for since August, just about. Um, and so like it's been nice. And granted, like when I had my apartment, he'd be over there a lot. So I semi know his tendencies. So I know how to work around that. I think it's exciting for me. I think the biggest thing for me was going into this relationship. I did not want to repeat mistakes of putting that into the value of who I was.
Mhm.
Um, so I always have a mentality of like, I don't try to have the mentality of I need him, but like I want him and I want him
Yes.
enough that I know it's good for me. So I try not to put my worth into that. I think biggest thing is as we're planning, which luckily we're not getting married for a while because he's back in school. So we're gonna let that go its course. But I think the biggest thing for me is like in this wedding process, I think is not allowing my people pleasing to come out so hard that I'm sacrificing so much of what I want and what we want to please that of others. And that's like I think been my biggest struggle. And when we talk about it, he always says like you're doing this for other people, it's not for yourself. Like what do you want? Um, and it's always like a struggle because like I've always been a people pleaser. Like I've kind of been raised like to care for others and to kind of help with their needs and wants where you can. Um,
Yes.
so like that's always been my struggle, but he's definitely been helpful in like letting me realize like this is our special day. At the end of the day, like it's about us. We're the ones getting married. Like
Yes.
obviously I'm like nice about what needs to be for certain people, but like also understanding that like this is for us. So that's been really helpful. And I think it's just been really exciting. We've talked about the things we want to do, and we pretty much like we're very good, I think, on like communicating with each other. That was always my biggest thing because I know I wasn't the most healthiest communicator, and
Yeah.
neither is he. And so we're really good about like really working on those stepping stones as we're transitioning from being engaged to getting married, and making sure that like we have that solid. So like especially when it comes time that we want to grow our family, like we're ready for that and we have what we need mentally and emotionally to be able to be the best for each
I
other
love
and for our
that.
family.
Yes, listen, the support of a spouse, the support of someone that you're dating, it does make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you guys recognize each other's weaknesses and you're making an intentional effort to be strong when the other one is weak, and to pull you out of that mental mess that you would have normally gone into,
Mm-hmm.
but because you see that it's detrimental, you help each other, you get out of that. I love that, absolutely love that. So I'm excited about your engagement, I'm
Thank
excited
you.
about your marriage. I feel like it's going to be a really good thing. And I pray that you guys, have a successful marriage. It's not about the wedding. Listen, the wedding is beautiful. It's nice. It's amazing. But building a very strong marriage is the goal. So you guys already know that. Y'all are working towards it. So I am so happy for you.
Thank you.
Very happy for you. So all right, so I like to end my shows with this particular question because this is what it's all about. What advice would you give to the woman that is going through, or even the man that is going through what you've gone through in this very moment, that you wish you could have gotten from someone when you were going through it?
I think what I wish I would have been told during this time is that you are first in everything. Like I was raised very much like it's not okay to be selfish. Like it's not okay to just like keep yourself to yourself or like protect things. Like it's like your job to go out and help others. And I think like that turned into me like wanting to like always help my mom or anything like that. And so
Yeah,
I had to learn like you go first in everything. Like at the end of the day, if everyone in your life was gone, like you only have yourself at that point. And
right.
so it is okay to be selfish with your time. It is okay to not put yourself in situations where you know you can be easily triggered, or you know is going to bring you a great deal of emotional distress. Um, it's okay to take care of yourself. I think that was always the
Right.
hardest thing for me is like I was always so worried about taking care of others that I wasn't giving myself whatever I needed. So
Yeah.
it's okay to be selfish. Like I have a whole entire Sunday where like it literally mainly is dedicated to me. And it works because like normally my fiance just worked a 12-hour shift, so he's sleeping most of the day. So I have that time. I don't have kids yet, just my animals. So luckily, once I'm done with them, I can go about it. But like, it's
Yeah.
okay to put yourself first and take care of yourself because
Absolutely.
you can't expect, you can't always expect your outside to improve without you making that effort. Like, it may
Yeah.
be up to you to revise what your outside environment is so that way when it comes to affecting your inner environment, like it's to your standards and what is best for you. So like please
Absolutely.
don't feel like you have to put yourself on the back burner to be there for everyone else, because at the end of the day, like you are with you the most, so you have to be okay
Absolutely.
with what's going on within you and make those efforts to just be you.
I love that. I love that. That is amazing advice. Yes, self-care is very important because if you don't take care of yourself, how can you help the rest of the world? You know what I'm saying? So it's a balance.
Yeah.
It's a good balance. So I love that. I absolutely am so excited about what's coming up for you and your life. Thank you so much for being a part of Let's Talk Jen. And I I'm in awe of the growth that you have like that you're in right now. I can't say that you're experiencing it because you're in it right now. And it's beautiful. It really is. And I I pray nothing but success and happiness and health, amazing help for you, because you are definitely needed in this world, and don't let anybody else tell you that you're not. Okay.
Thank you. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much. All right, guys. So that is the end of this show. Justice, again, I appreciate you being on the show. Listen, we do this every single Friday night at 7 p.m. So make sure that you are here, right here on YouTube. And this is Let's Talk Jen. Thank you so much, Justice. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Good night, guys.